Well, brethren, I was always scheduled to do the final Staying Engaged session, as I did the first one, of course. And I really want to say a huge thank you to Ian Slessor for the magnificent way in which he's enabled this whole process to take place. Last week, seemingly even doing David Stanford's from his car at the side of the road. How on earth he does it? Ian, I just can't believe it, because whenever I'm in my car, I can't get a signal at all. So how you managed to not only do that, but truly amazing. He's worked very hard. He's been a constant force in this. And we've had some tremendous eye-opening pieces of information. Young Grillage, of course, we all know him to be an excellent entertainer. But right across the board, and David Stanford's last week, as you see, heavily sunburned. I was on holiday. I didn't see it, but I watched it last night, and it was first class. So a wonderful initiative, and thank you to all who've taken part. Ian and I were talking before I came on air. We were hoping for sort of 30 to 50. And we've had double that, and we're looking for quite an audience tonight. I can't imagine why, but quite an audience tonight, and I thank you all very much indeed. What I wanted to do tonight was to say a huge thank you. We also must tap into Peter Manning for the tremendous work he's done with In Touch. That was meant to be a monthly magazine, brethren. When we launched it, we were going to do it once a month, and Peter has managed one every week. I think he's done 17 or 18 or even 19, but a tremendous effort. And perhaps you don't realise, but it's been going way, way beyond the province. Isle of Man, Durham, Northumberland, Cumbria. It's been going all over the place, and it's been very well received. And some fantastic articles in there. And there's been some from Chris Rogers as well. We've tried to keep a balance of interesting and trite, and Chris has managed to give us the poignant moments of humour, and we thank him for that. I guess well, I'd better start with the news that was put out yesterday, and I don't think it's a surprise to you all, but What's changed was yesterday it was announced at quarterly communication that by the programme master that my successor was to be Worship Brother Philip Hall, our Grand Superintendent. And so we chose to announce it. What's changed? Well, what has changed is that we wanted it out in the open now. So we asked London to start divulging it. Because we hoped that together we can now sort of shape what's going to happen between now and when we genuinely come out of COVID. I'll come back to that in a moment. We've known for a long time that, that this was the case, and you know that I should have finished in June. And all of the events that we had planned, and there were many, and I was looking forward to them, both centenary events and presenting 50 and 60-year certificates, all of which I absolutely love. And of course, celebratory events and the church service and Provincial Grand Lodge and so on and so forth, all went by the board. And that was very sad. But Philip Hall and I sat down and thought, well, there's no point in actually letting you all know what was going to happen. Because we should wait until he could be duly invested. And at the time of lockdown, we had a long chat, and quite honestly, he had more than enough on his plate to try and rescue his business, which at the time was totally, absolutely and utterly shut down. And he didn't see whether there was any light at the end of the tunnel. So he had enough on his plate. So he asked me if I would keep soldiering on, and we managed the situation with In Touch and Staying Engaged and so on and so forth. I then got a phone call from the programme master telling me that my patent was extended and it is extended still. I am your provincial Grand Master until the day before Philip is invested. So the messages, the very kind messages that I got from all of you, and I thank you all very much indeed, and indeed from some provincial Grand Master colleagues. So it's not just you, brethren, saying that I should now enjoy my retirement and I should be very happy, and I'm still in charge. I'm sorry to let you know, and I ain't gone away and I ain't going away. I'm hanging on for the with grim death, brethren. And no, it's important that I stay in charge until we do hand over. And normally it's just a very short period, and so the deputy takes charge. And Chris is a little hacked off with that, to be honest with you, quite rightly so. But it could be quite a long time, you see, and so already there've been, in this period of lockdown, there've been three very serious issues that I've had to deal with. And you need the experience to be able to do that. And I've done that, and will continue to do that until we get a date. And so why did we change then? Well, we changed because we said right at the beginning that we'll keep this quiet for as long as we can, but you know what it's like in Freemasonry. There's no such thing as a Masonic secret. There's no sound on. I hope you can all hear me, brethren, can you?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yes, that's good. That's okay then. So we felt that in September or October, things would certainly be much better by then, so we'll make it public in September. And then, of course, things have changed and changed again and changed yet again. And so we felt that at the beginning of September, it was time to let you all know and start planning a new way forward for Warwickshire with, if you like, the two of us at the helm, me having to unfortunately rubber stamp the decisions. But quite honestly, I've been talking to Philip Hall since March anyway, and everything that we've been doing has been a joint process with my executive and Philip anyway, and that will continue. That's not going to change whatsoever. We thought we had a plan because London informed us that they were open for business, and so Philip's installation could go ahead. We therefore were looking towards a November date for him to be installed. And then, of course, the government came up yesterday with the news that you can only meet in groups of 6. And so we're all left scratching our heads now as to what this means. And if you're expecting an answer from me this evening, you're not going to get one, because I really don't know. However, what I can say is that we are going to get word from UGLE. UGLE are talking with Mark Mason's Hall and the legal team to find out what our position truly is with regards to meetings of group of 6. And the feeling is, and I don't want to misinform any of you, but the feeling is that we can be classed as a group, a social group, and therefore we could possibly still operate under the maximum term of 30 people meeting. But until I know, we have to assume that it is 6, and all my talk tonight will be about 6. But as soon as we do know, as soon as we do get the legal ruling, then of course we'll advise you as to what to do. So that's an update on the latest events. I think the only other question that people were asking was, does this mean that your new Provincial Grand Master will be a double header? And the simple answer is yes, he will. He'll be in charge of both the craft and indeed the Royal Arch in Warwickshire, a massive undertaking. But he's a very, very able man. I'm absolutely delighted, as I said on social media, that Warwickshire's in such fine hands. And to bring this to a close, I really, really, I've enjoyed every single solitary second of it. In fact, I've absolutely loved it. And I do thank you all very much indeed for your support, because it's been very special. It's been very special to me. You've been very special. And yes, I'll miss it like crazy, but I'll do other things and I'll be okay. And Warwickshire's in great hands, and that's all that matters. But the talk tonight, and I will take questions towards the end and try and answer them to the best of my ability, or prevaricate as I've done for the last 10 years, whichever you prefer. What are we going to do now? Where are we going now? Well, I really believe that we've turned the corner of worrying about our membership. We should congratulate ourselves that we have ensured to the best of our ability that people are not going to leave Freemasonry because they've got out of the habit. Because of your efforts and because of the support of the province, we've actually kept people engaged. We really have brought them about to see that Freemasonry in these dark times is more important than ever. And I passionately believe that, and I thank you all for the way that you've done it. So why are we bringing the program to an end? Well, it's a fact of life now that lodges are starting to move themselves, and they are getting in touch in small groups just for a drink in the pub, which they are calling an officers' meeting instead of Zoom meetings. So all sorts of interesting interactions are taking place. And of course, that is very, very important. There was a view expressed very forcibly to me this morning by a provincial Grand Master that UGLE should not have restarted Freemasonry, that UGLE have got to give us powers to stop sending out summonses, this nonsense of a summons and an arbitrary meeting, and we've got to find a way around it. Well, I'm sorry, but I disagree. I really think that if your scheduled meeting was in September, I think it's really nice that we get a summons out. And I think it's really nice that as many people can gather together and just renew friendships as we can. I personally feel, because we're all reacting to this restart in very, very different ways, and we really do have to respect the fact that we're all in different ground on this. And the survey that we did shocked me. I thought the old and wearisome like myself would be the most in trepidation. And that's not the case. It's not age dependent. Chris Rogers has signified that the gung-hos and the gung-nos, it's about 50% each way. And it's not age dependent. So there are some people who desperately want to get back, and other people who really are saying, I'm not doing anything until 2021 when this happens or the other happens. But we can get 5 people together and we can have our meeting and we can take the minutes. Of course, we can have 6 now, but I mentioned 5 because it's quorate, you understand that. And the meeting can take place. And of course, there's no festive board, but you can retire to the pub afterwards for a drink. Or just have a chat in the car park. At least you've seen each other, and it could be a different 5 the next month and a different 5 the month after. So I believe the contact is important. I believe it's interesting to actually enable the election processes within lodges to take place. And I do believe that some business can take place. Other lodges want to take it to a different level. That's up to them. If you can get more than 5 there and you wish to have a lecture, then go ahead and do that. You know, our orator mentioned that, and there are many, many things available to you. We've gone through all of that to do that, then please do. Whatever is satisfactory for you and your group of brethren of your lodge is the way that you should now move it forward. I was reasonably confident that some form of festive board wasn't too far away. But of course, things have changed, and that I think the greatest frustration for us all is that it's forever changing. As fast as we see some chink, light at the end of the tunnel, then something changes. And but you know, we get used to this. As a Sunderland supporter, I've faced diversity all my life, brethren, and it ain't going to change now. But I do urge you to keep your lodges going, and above all, keep in contact with people. People who you know are going to be struggling. There are some of our members have lost their jobs. There are some of our members in dire circumstances. And let's make it absolutely clear, if your lodge can't help them out, then the province can. We have a COVID-19 fund, and nobody should leave Freemasonry because they can't afford their provincial their lodge subscriptions. We have had some letters asking for us to write to London and get Grand Lodge dues suspended. And indeed, why shouldn't we suspend provincial Grand Lodge dues? Well, believe it or not, in this lockdown period, London's expenditure is greater than normal, and therefore they do require our subscriptions. And indeed, the province have still got expenditure as well, so I'm afraid we still need to ask you to pay those. And I said right at the beginning, if we want a Masonic Hall to go back to, we have to look to support them as best we can. So yes, we've got a responsibility towards all of this, but you've taken all that on board and you've done it. And I think we've done some magnificent work as a result of it. And I'm very proud of you all, very proud of you all. So what can we do? In the Pro-Grand Master's address at Quarterly Communication yesterday, which I read this afternoon, I'm just showing off, brethren, but I'm sure you'll all read it quite soon. He was quite up for the fact that we've got many, many members wanting to join Freemasonry as a result of all the fantastic work we've done during lockdown. And indeed, David Stanford last week said that we've got 90 waiting to come in Warwickshire. I still take the view that it would be better for them to wait until we can do the ceremony as we know it. However, if there's any lodge going to lose a member because of it, then please get in touch with the province and we'll help you work out with the ceremony that's advised from the Emulation Lodge of Instruction. We'll help you work out a way to get that brother into Freemasonry as is now, to the best of our ability. I'd rather have him in and keep him interested than lose him. But to be perfectly honest, I'd rather the initiate's chain was still a key and central part to any Warwickshire initiation. Because it's all well and good saying, well, we'll do that as soon as we get a festive board. The first night, brethren, the first night when you have that initiate's chain, it is just so special. You can all remember it. Crikey, I can remember it. And I personally would hate to lose that. And so until we get the festive board that we can actually do that, we might have to be 2 meters apart, so we'd have to have arm extensions, brethren, to get the chain. Well, I could manage, you know, but not perhaps everyone could. But so what's of the future beyond that? Well, as fast as I wrote the script for tonight, of course, I had to tear it up because I've just heard on the news that Birmingham's in dire straits with more cases in Birmingham this last week, 3 times more cases in Birmingham than there was last week. So we are still in very, very difficult times, and we are going to have to work within the limits that we are given by UGLE and not take any risks whatsoever. But I know that you've all wanted to engage in what we're doing, and some lodges are having installations. David Stanford was out with an ADC last night, presiding at an installation. We've had I think James Dalton, if you can just nod, James, you escorted a warden, didn't you? Yes. So we've got 4 installations, I know, this month. and we've got a goodly number next month that are intent upon going ahead. And they very much appreciated getting out and having a provincial presence there. And we've had a jolly good night. Was it the same? No, of course it wasn't. But it was an awful lot better than what we've been used to. Well, it's a start. It's a start, and that's what we hope to do. There was going to be a meeting of a lodge that I offered to go to help support them, but they felt for an anniversary of their 40 years, but they felt that they didn't want to do anything other than acknowledge it and have a true celebration when they duly can. Really, the province is here to help you do whatever is right for you at the time. And if it's a business meeting, we won't attend. If it's a proclamation, we won't attend. But if it's something that you want specially there, then we will attend, we'll come along and make it as special as you can for you. I wish I had more to say. I wish I had some magic wand that I could say, well, we in Warwickshire will be okay because we're going to do this or that or the other. But we can't. We've just got to be patient, and we'll, with our determination and with everything that you've been doing, I think it will get much, much better, and I'm sure it will get better soon. And so sure, in fact, that I believe that we'll have Philip Hall invested, well, I'm hoping before Christmas, and then you can get shot of me and get me out of the way and start working with the new Provincial Grand Master. But before I take questions, just let me reassure you that between now and his installation, I'm in touch with him on a regular basis. Just as I'm getting out of bed, he phones me as he's going to work. I love it, brethren. I absolutely love it. And I keep saying to him, yes, I was out of bed this morning, but only just. And it annoys, well, you know, somebody's got to keep working to pay my pension. So I'm delighted that he's still doing that. But I hope you've got the buzz that you obviously feel I've got, that we're starting back again. And when I get the installation and special events list in my hand and I look down it and I see what's happening, then it is special. It is special to see that the season started again and we are going again, but we're going in a completely different way, but a way that we'll still have some fun. And brethren, that's what I want you to do. I want you to stay safe, but I do want you to try and engage with as much as you can and help each other. With that, Ian, I'll open for any questions that anyone has and try and answer them, but I can't promise. So if you have got a question, can you let Ian know, and I'll try and answer it if I can.
Good evening.
How can I help?
I just want to know what it'd be like to be a Freemason, like when you're young compared to when you're old. Is it much better for when you're older or when you're younger?
I think the answer to that one, Jack, is that it's great to be a Freemason whether you're young or old, and we're very, very fortunate in Warwickshire that we've got a young Freemasons club, and there's an awful lot of youngsters in there. But old gits like me still manage to enjoy their Freemasonry to the full. So I think it engages the full spectrum. And I think the answer to your question is we're getting an awful lot of, certainly the 90 people that are interested are all younger men. And that's an interesting challenge. And we are still engaging an awful lot of people who are retired and finding time for that. So Freemasonry still has a unique appeal right across the age ranges, and I'm sure that will continue.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening, Right Worshipful Provincial Grand Master. Brethren, I am an intruder but not a cowan to Freemasonry. I happen to belong to another province called West Lancashire. You might have heard of it. Right Worshipful Provincial Grand Master, we've met on one or two occasions when
we have indeed.
and I am sorry to see you eventually on your way on the bus. But can I say many congratulations for all the good work that you've done. I wanted to jump on the site tonight because I know it'd probably be your last one, but I have been so impressed by the way I've been following Warwickshire for a while because I'm getting a copy of the emails that you send out through one of the lads in West Lancashire who are a member of your province also. I've been so impressed at the engagement emails that you've been sending out, and I would just completely agree with you what you've said this evening. But what I would say is that even though we've got some hard times to come, and you've got some younger masons to come through, I feel passionately that some of the more experienced masons among us are so much valued to Freemasonry because your knowledge and your experience is needed sorely to send the newer masons, the younger masons, into the future with knowledge and with experience. And they can only obtain that from people like you. So we must engage right across Masonry, and we must keep the lines of communication open to the brethren that we're not seeing. But saying that, right words for Provincial Grand Master, I have to dip off because my own lodge is having a Zoom meeting this evening. But may I wish you all the very best, sir, for the future years. And everybody in the province, may I wish you all the very best for the future. Stay safe and stay well, and keep banging the drum.
Thank you, Kevin. Very, very, very kind of you to join with us. And Kevin makes a very, very good point, of course, that it's our experienced Freemasons that are going to help carry us forward. And I think we're engaging with all of those. But best wishes to all your lodge members, and thank you for your interest, Kevin.
Thank you, sir. Good night. God bless, brethren.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, James.
Just a question about your reflections on your last 10 years, really. I just wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've been asked this many times before, but you know, if you could pinpoint a moment of the last decade that's really stood out for you or been a super highlight, what would it be?
Crikey. I was just talking to Ian, and there are so many things, of course. Worshipful Master of my lodge, that's special. Becoming a provincial ADC, that was very, very special. I really, really remember that as just being an incredibly significant moment. Then made, yes, Rex falling out of an aeroplane. That was good fun. That was just excellent fun. After being made an APGM was very special. Being installed as Provincial Grand Master, crikey, I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. I really still can't believe it. An ordinary chap like me who just likes his Freemasonry to become Provincial Grand Master. But the most special thing, I was privileged, of course, to be on the Board of General Purposes. And I was also involved in the 2017 organising committee and the Delphi and lots of other paraphernalia. But to be to answer your question, the standout of my reign for me personally and Sandra has been the work that we did around the 2017, the dinners we had to attend as hosting people from right across the world, and then to get one of the premier seats right at the front of the actual 2017 performance at the Royal Albert Hall, and then at the dinner afterwards, was incredibly special, incredibly special. And we had a great Warwickshire turnout at the dinner, and we insisted that we stayed with our provinces rather than with the great and the good. But that was an incredibly special night, which has stayed with me. And there's so many provincial things as well. MFest was fantastic. Yes, the skydive was special. And there's still an awful lot more to come, I hope. But yeah, 2017, James, it was really, I was just so proud to be walking down there in such a magnificent setting representing Warwickshire. You can't imagine how it's not a burden of responsibility. It's just a pride. You're walking down there knowing that you are Warwickshire. You're there because you're Warwickshire, and we were right at the front. And long may that continue. So those were my feelings on the night. Not one of being self-centered about it, but one that I was able to represent our province on a very, very special occasion. And I've got the DVD to prove it. So it was a really very, very special night. But, you know, I've had so many, and Sandra says this, you know, you've all been fantastic. Oh, Sandra's just been so supportive and so helpful throughout my time as an acting provincial officer, which is well over 17 years now. But in these last 10 years, she's gone to an awful lot of dinners with me representing the province. And invariably, brethren, I just park her at the beginning and then grab her hand for just to be escorted in. I don't get a chance to see her again. And far from saying that she didn't like this, she's thoroughly enjoyed it because you've all been fantastic to her. And she's thoroughly enjoyed making your company. And she's been very special. She's been very special. And we've had some great times. And I'm sure I'll have some more with our brethren in the future. But a great 10 years, absolutely loved it. Wouldn't have swapped it for the world. I'd do another 10 given half a chance, but I don't think you could cope with it, brethren. And Sandra certainly couldn't cope with it. So time for change, and we've got a great provincial Grand Master designate, so we should be very, very pleased with that. Great question, James. Thank you very much indeed.
Provincial Grand Master.
Good evening, young sir.
This year, I can tell you that, you know, a combination of the 150,000 from the province, an additional 160 from the lodges themselves, 160,000 from the lodges themselves, and the additional 68 that we gave to COVID, and the £40,000 that we gave to the incubator fee. This year, we've given away £400,000. It's absolutely scary. And if you kind of extrapolate that, given that this has been a bit of an extraordinary year, during your term of office, this province, under your government, has given away over £3 million to local charities. That's staggering. How do you feel about that? It's not the main, it's an absolute underpinning part of Freemasonry, but one that kind of sometimes goes under the radar. How does such an enormous amount make you feel?
Well, I blame the provincial Grand Charity Stewards, who are never off my back, and they always want to spend money, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Seriously, Jeff, I'm very proud of it, and we should all be very proud of it. There's one key change that I made when I became Provincial Grand Master, because I sat on the trustee board of the charities for 5 years before I became Provincial Grand Master. And the big change that we have now, and we've increased our investment with an awful lot of legacies during my time, and that money is invested on our behalf in a great way. Prior to me becoming Provincial Grand Master, a certain amount of money was spent, and the money that was left over that we'd earned from this capital was reinvested. I'll change that. I didn't think that was sensible. We were sitting on an awful lot of invested money, and I got the trustees, and the trustees have just been fantastic. They're just totally on board with helping as many people as we can. So in answer to Jeff's question, the change of policy was that the money that we earn from our invested capital is spent. So we spend it. We spend it, and we spend it on fantastic causes. It changes each year because sometimes the charity is not as deserving as it was last year, or it's more deserving, or whatever. And so, yes, we've been very reactive, as Jeff said, this year to hospitals. particularly the group of 5 that the Birmingham Trust operate, because it's very important to an awful lot of our members. But we've helped an awful lot of charities right across the province. And that's because we are in Warwickshire, we're quite unique, you know, brethren, and an awful lot of provinces have not got any charitable association or any benevolent fund at all. We've got a significant one because our predecessors had the wisdom to set this money up, the legacies that come in, and they're great legacies. They are a serious amount of money, you know. I kept suggesting that we should create a Provincial Grandmasters Caribbean Fund, but it was never got past the trustees, to be honest with you. But these significant legacies that come in are invested and they give us a hefty income. And that, no, income's the wrong word. The interest that they accrue, the trustees enable us to spend. And that does not devalue the invested money, but the interest does enable us to do all the works that Jeff said. And it's been fantastic. It really has been fantastic. Even in times of festival, we still manage to maintain our charitable giving in the province and give to the festival as well. So from the WMCA and the WMBF. So yeah, we are very, very lucky as Warwickshire Freemasons that we've got that money behind us. And I've been very fortunate to have people like Jeff and John Hayward and others in the charity office, and John Harris now, and you know, and Bill Clark. They've just been fantastic people, and they've ensured, together with the trustees, that the money is spent very wisely, it's very effective, and crikey, Jeff, I think we've done a phenomenal amount of good, and very proud of it, very proud of it. And I know that can only just continue and get better because of the foundation that we've all laid, and it's there to continue doing good. So yeah, proud to be a Warwickshire Freemason because that's what we can do. So huge thank you to you, Jeff. You've been the catalyst to enable this to happen, and I've just been the one to say, yes, let's go for it. And well done you, and thank you. I think we should all recognise the role that Jeff Walker's played in this, and indeed John Harris. They've done a fantastic job, and I'm very proud of them, and so should you, Bree, brethren.
It's the £3 million that's been raised over that 10 years that is just phenomenal. And again, to the lodgers themselves,
yeah,
over the same period, well over £1.5 million. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, very good, very good. Good evening, young Mike. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Good. I'd just like to take this opportunity, first of all, to say what an absolute pleasure and a privilege it was serving you and the province, of course, as Provincial Grand Secretary. And certainly for me, the highlight of my tenure was when we held the provincial annual meeting down at Great Queen Street during the centenary year. So my question is, how did you feel sitting in the Grand Master's chair presiding over that meeting?
Well, I remember bringing the idea into the province, Mike, and you and a certain person who I shan't name just turned around and said to me, we can't do it. We just can't do it. It's just not doable. And Mike's since learned that you don't say to me you can't do something, because I was then determined to do it. It was fantastic. It was truly fantastic that people came. Firstly, I was confident that they would, because it was special, and that was the big worry, that people would think it was too far to come. I am going to answer your question, Mike, in a minute. Then could we fill it? I was confident that we could. I didn't expect to have 1,360 with a capacity of 1,450. I didn't expect to fill it that full. I remember Peter Lowndes saying to me at a board meeting afterwards, Macy, you're going to have to watch it. You're getting more people at your provincial Grand Lodge meeting than we get at a quarterly communication. It's got to stop, he said. So on the day, all sorts of, the rehearsal the night before was nerve-wracking, particularly for the DCs. It was nerve-wracking because we couldn't get used to the geometry of the room. It was vast. And the DCs had to stand 1 foot on one step and 1 foot on another. And that really takes a lot of doing for a lot of time. They really were difficult moments for the provincial DC to organise all of that. And to be honest, I went back to the hotel and had an awful lot to drink because the rehearsal was a shambles. It truly was a shambles. So we agreed to have a rehearsal the following morning at 8 o'clock. And it just changed the following morning. And I often find that's the case. As soon as you've got your provincial regalia on, the sloppiness goes. And I was determined that it was going to be Warwickshire. It was going to be right. It was going to be good. And the rehearsal just went like clockwork. And I knew we were in for a good day. What you don't realise is that we lined up in the corridor beforehand, and then I went into the Pro Grandmaster's changing room, and the Grandmaster's changing room, and we opened Provincial Grand Lodge. Myself, the wardens, and the chains. That's all that were present. We opened the lodge, opened Provincial Grand Lodge, and then we called it off in that room. That's what we did. And then we processed in to enable us to have the meeting in front of Our Ladies. That's how we did it. And we held the meeting perfectly normally. And I was quite in awe of sitting in the Grand Master's chair, in this massive gold chair, at the rehearsal evening. But then I got quite used to it. And I thought, well, it's a lovely chair, but I couldn't see myself in it. I was just sitting there, and at the back of it, it's not as attractive as what you guys see at the front, if you see what I mean. But what I didn't factor in, and this really made me cross, because as a DC, I try to prepare for absolutely everything so that nothing is going to put me off. And so I came in with due ceremony. I walked up to the bottom of the stairs. I know there are 7 steps, and I know exactly how to go up there, and I know exactly how to go in, and I'd rehearsed all of that. And then I sat down in the chair, ready to be saluted, and looked up, and directly in the balcony, straight in front of me, was Sandra. And she was looking directly down at me. And I've never, ever been stared out by my wife in my life like I was then. But once I got used to that, Mike, it was just a tremendous day, wasn't it? It was just a tremendous day for everybody that was there. The ceremonial was fantastic. All the work that you and your team did just worked like clockwork. David Stanford made sure that we got great service at the Connaught Rooms, so the meal, whilst very expensive by Warwickshire standards, it was quite cheap, I was told, by London standards. But we had a fantastic meal and a fantastic day. Very special, mate. Yeah, I totally agree with you. A highlight, and one that you and the team can be very proud of, and the ceremonial team can be proud of. And in fact, I think we should do it again, to be honest. It was just so very special. But of course, the more times you do something, the less special it becomes. And it was the right thing to do in 2017. I'm pleased we did it. And yeah, we set a new trend there. So despite your misgivings, Mike, I'm sure you'll agree it was something that was worth doing, and you did it very well. So thanks, Mike. Good evening, young sir.
Good evening. Right, Worcester Provincial Grandmaster, we've seen the texts, we've seen the Twitter, the WhatsApps and everything else, and the congratulations to you, and in particular to our Right Worshipful Provincial Grandmaster designate. But personally, Right Worshipful Provincial Grandmaster, I'd like to thank you for all the time, the effort, the commitment to Warwickshire, but more importantly to the brethren of Warwickshire. Because don't forget, it's like everything else, the lodge is only a building, it's the members that make that building. And you have supported all the brethren of Warwickshire over all these years. You've certainly made my Masonic career very interesting, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But can I thank you, sir, for all the efforts and everything else that you've put into Warwickshire. You will be gratefully accepted as a past Provincial Grand Master, and I look forward to sitting in lodge with you eventually after your maybe 1 year of rest, I believe it may be. But sir, we do thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the efforts and the commitments, and more importantly, to Sandra, because without the support of our partners, our wives, our girlfriends, or whatever, Masonry would not be as enjoyable as it is. And please, on behalf of the brethren, would you forward all our thanks to Sandra for her commitment to Masonry in Warwickshire.
I'll do that, Steve. That's very kind. Thank you very much indeed. And brethren, you know I've enjoyed it. Totally enjoyed it. And it's been a great privilege. So thank you. That's very kind, Steve. Thank you.
God bless you, sir. God bless you. Thank you.
Good evening. May I thank you, sir, Right Worshipful Provincial Grand Master, for allowing me into the Zoom meeting this evening. Stephen Waller and I met 2 or 3 years ago, I think, in Scotland, where my Masonry exists. I'm under the Grand Lodge of Scotland, so a long way from you, brethren. Although I'm a Salopian born and bred, so I know that part of the world reasonably well. Stephen invited me into the Zoom meeting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked your presentation, a great presentation, a great deal of enthusiasm in Warwickshire, quite obviously. May I thank you for the meeting, and may I offer you the long and warm fraternal greetings, a long and happy retirement in your Masonry, and perhaps if you deign to come north of the border, we'd be delighted to see you in Perthshire East. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I'd love to join you. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. I just wanted to thank you very much for everything that you've done personally for all of the pikes in Freemasonry. I can remember you starting when we went on the narrowboat trip.
Yes.
You did walks all around the canal, and of course through all the cars, and you've given me some incredible opportunities in Freemasonry, and you've also allowed me to share that with Dad. And we've come round and we've had the most incredible times, and you've been an incredible Provincial Grand Master. And we thank you very much for that. It's very special, the time that I've spent with my family, and a lot of that has been because of your enthusiasm and for what you've done. So thank you.
My pleasure, and you've been a star. Thank you for all you've done, and indeed the whole Pike family is acting officers. You're a credit to Freemasonry, and we're very proud that you're Warwickshire Freemasons. So thank you, James. Very kind of you. Some great times we've had, and long may that continue.
Thank you. Yes, and to you, sir.
Thank you.
A lot's changed since you became Provincial Grand Master. What would you say would be your legacy that you've left for the next Provincial Grand Master to build from what you've built since you've been Provincial Grand Master for the last 10 years?
I think that's for others to decide rather than me be analytically pompous about it. What I've tried to do is to change the whole perception of the role. I wanted to be approachable. I wanted to be me. I wanted people to enjoy their Freemasonry because I do. If I've succeeded in going some way towards that, I'm very happy. I hope my enthusiasm always came across. I hope that I was approachable. I hope that I am still approachable, without in any way not holding to the dignity of the office. I do fully respect the dignity of the office, but I did not respect the pomposity that went with it on some occasions in some individuals. Not Michael Price, but in some individuals. I really think we've changed that. We've changed, and as Rod said, the VO scheme changed the way that the province was observed through the provincial team were observed throughout the province. And so I hope we've changed the atmosphere to one more of being more friendly, more supportive, and more encouraging. And that's what my predecessor is going to need. That's what my successor is going to need. Because the times have changed, as you so rightly said, Chris. We need to be more supportive now. We need to be more aware. And I think that we have got that enabled right across the board. We've got the support mechanisms in place to do that, right from our senior Freemasons, and as Sean has just reminded me, down to 5 of 9 as well. I think we've got a good structure in there now, but I always tried in every one of my provincial addresses and in every one of my major meetings to say, just make sure you continue to enjoy your Freemasonry. And that's what I want you to do, because I absolutely love my Freemasonry and I want everyone to continue to enjoy that. So I hope that's a decent answer, Chris, and I hope it's not too sanctimonious, but that's what I've tried to do. That's what I've tried.
That's absolutely perfect. And thank you very much for the last 10 years, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I think we've gone on longer than we ever should, brethren. Surely you let me off the hook now, will you? I do want to close by thanking Ian again. We cannot have possibly got close to doing this without him. And so I want to close as I opened by Ian Slessor, you're a star. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for enabling us to do something which technically is very difficult, and you've made it look easy. Brethren, I wish you all a huge and successfully happy future in Freemasonry, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. So I'll say good night.